Hello, this is Community Unity Now, the D-Tycoon Show. This is Bill Morton, President of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. I am Trudy Leong, Administrator of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. And today, we will be discussing the CTA.
Oh, the CTA. How about that fiscal cliff?
Yeah, I'm worried about it, but still, the conditions, they really worsened. So how was the trip last night? What time did you were you on it last night?
I think I was around 11 p.m. or midnight or 1 a.m. A lot of times I travel the Red Line around that time. Usually it's a little bit more wild during those hours, the morning hours between maybe 11 p.m. and maybe 4:30 a.m. And I'm very often on the Red Line during those hours. I pretty much just keep to myself. I do YouTube live videos on my tripod, but I'm not going to do it when somebody's sleeping right there. If someone has a knife out, swinging it around, if people are getting into fights, if people are smoking crack in front of me, I'm not going to participate in promoting that activity.
What about the first car? Like right now, when you and I ride the train, we try to go on the first car, and it is better, but not always. Because sometimes people are still smoking on the first car. So what is it like on the first car at those hours in the wee hours of the night?
It was kind of fun, actually. A couple nights ago, there were some students, some Loyola students, I believe, and they got on there and they were really rowdy and loud and having a good time. They were probably intoxicated. And they were pretending to be a T-Rex on the train, and they were making these shrieking dinosaur sounds. They were telling stories really loud, and they're saying, well, this good thing happened to me, and everyone went, yay, but this bad thing came of it, and everyone went, oh, but it wasn't that bad because this happened, yay, and they did the whole time until we got to almost, they got off at Fullerton, where I was getting off, until almost Fullerton. It might have been Addison, where the conductor on the first train said, listen, you guys can have your fun, and you guys did have your fun, but there are other people on this train, and you have to respect them, respect their rides as well. And I thought that was a really good call on the conductor. He let them have their fun. He let them be stupid for quite a while, and then he cut that out.
Well, while they were having their fun, were there any of the characters that we were discussing earlier on the train, on that car?
Like Saturday night, let's just say Saturday night, or like during the big concerts, or when Taylor Swift comes to town and all these Swifties are like swamping the train. Usually the riffraff is not there. I don't think that the people who cause trouble on the CTA trains want to deal with that at all. Not at all. So if you see these girls, coming and to and fro the club, or you see these kind of rowdy students on the Red Line, just having fun, but there are a lot of them. They can easily outnumber any kind of troublemakers on the train, like real violent troublemakers on the train, if need be. So I try to stay in the first car. I've been doing that a lot. There was an incident where this guy was playing music. He was playing music really loud on one of those little speaker cannons, the Bluetooth speaker, and it was way too loud. And somebody said, "Shut that off. Very, very profanely, you shut that off right now." And then they got into a fight, and these two white guys jumped on this black guy who had the speakers, and it was really violent. It was really, really bad, and it got to the point where other people and the passengers got into the fight as well. and I don't want to get cut up because a knife came out, and so I was not participating in that fight. And he started waving the fight around, and he was talking about, and I'm not gonna dox him. I'm not gonna say his name or show a picture or where he said he was working, but he said he just got out of prison, and he has a parole officer, and if this were back in the day, he would have shot them. He would have shot them. So that's what that was. And then he goes, and then he pulls out the knife. He's like, I couldn't reach this, and he's waving it around, and I'm sitting in the seat, and he's walking past me. He's talking about the white people, the white boys, and he's waving this knife in front of me, and other passengers and Asian passengers and everyone else, and it's just unacceptable. And on all accounts, the whole scenario was unacceptable, and there is no one there to ask for assistance. There were no police. There were none of those security canine guys that do nothing. And there were, the conductor did not acknowledge that. And I'll tell you something. When something like that's happening, nobody's pressing that button in front of them. Someone's waving a knife or saying, I'm going to shoot somebody, or getting into a fight and beating up somebody and biting their hand or their thumb or something with their teeth. You're not going to press that button because you're going to get it next. And that's what the CTA has to understand. We go to these CTA board meetings pretty much every month, either Trudy or I or both of us, and we bring our constituents as well, Adam Mack and some of our other friends in Rogers Park, and we talk about the issues. And it's very nice that the board listens to us, and the interim president listens to us, and even the former president listened to us and acknowledged us. But I haven't seen the smoking stop. I haven't seen the crack smoking, the weed smoking, the cigarette smoking stop. I haven't seen the violence curtailed. And you know what? For a while after that guy was waving that knife and saying he would shoot the white people, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a little hiatus from this red line after 11 p.m., and I did. And Trudy, you mentioned that to the CTA board, that story.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it was very serendipitous too, because after I mentioned it, because public comment comes at the beginning of the meeting. Then later at the meeting, the interim president, she said that they were switching around their security, and that they would have their private security force at the stations between Roosevelt and 95th. So evidently, very, very likely, and she said it started in April, and that was about when you told me about that incident. So shortly after they put security at the stations from Roosevelt to the 95th, then whomever were hanging around between Roosevelt and 95th must have migrated up to those trains between Roosevelt and Howard, because that is when Bill was complaining to me many times. He says, it's getting so bad. It's just suddenly, it just got very, very bad.
And we used to complain about not finding a clean seat, about the CTA workers using the mop for the floor where they clean the urine and the beer or whatever spilled and sticky all over the floor. And then they use that same one directly afterwards to mop the seats where we're putting our butts. And that's getting on our pants. And, you can't go home with your, you have to take off your shoes. You got to take off your pants as soon as you come back home to the apartment, because you don't want any of that on your bed or your computer desk chair, or on your floor. I mean, it's just nasty. And we talked to Eric Bazier about that. And those
Eric Bazier is the union steward of Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 308.
And he mentioned that, that floor. He mentioned to me that floor, it's like rubberized floor, but underneath that floor is it's made of wood. It's wood panel. So when someone takes a leak on the train,
or throws up,
or bleeds, or anything, whatever they're doing on that train that's spilling a solid or a liquid somewhere, that is going through the cracks into that wood, soaking into that wood, and then what it does is it solidifies, and it turns into dust in the train, he told us, which we're all breathing every single time we take the CTA trains.
And also, he did tell us that we cannot fault the maintenance crew for using the mop to try to clean the seats and also clean the floor, because they do not have time to do the job. They only have a couple of minutes to clean 8 cars. Let's say they're responsible for an 8-car red line. They only have like about 5 minutes to clean everything, and there's no way that they could clean everything.
So at the end of the line, they have 5 minutes or 10 minutes or maybe less, more or less, to clean up, but they have 8 cars to clean. And there may be graffiti, and they've got to use that acid stuff to take off the graffiti. And that's why you see that brown stuff on the doors, because they did graffiti and they put that, they didn't have time to wipe that stuff off, the solution off. You don't want to touch that. And then if they're taking care of that, then they're not taking care of the pool of urine or blood over there. They're not picking up the trash if they're taking care of the urine or the blood. Like, there's so much going on with this system, and it needs a complete overhaul. And this fiscal cliff, I don't know how they're spending their budget. I have yet to look at their complete budget. I want to. And I do respect a lot of the people in the CTA. Let's just make this clear. I respect the workers. We have good working relationships with the board and the infrastructure officer and the head of the RPM. We have meetings with them all the time at the CTA headquarters, and the RPM headquarters in Edgewater. So we're very well informed. We've spent a lot of time on the CTA personally, having the experience and studying what's going on, speaking with our constituents, and trying to find a solution such as public safety, public health, and filling those empty storefronts, for us, particularly the ones in Rogers Park.
And getting back to the CTA, our constituents tell us a lot of their problems, such as being ghosted by buses. A person with a disability, she has to use the walker, and then she was ghosted, and she can't walk fast. She has to make a meeting. She wants to make a meeting, and of course she can't do it, and that happens often. There are so many problems, and we do thank the CTA for trying to address these problems. They said that they would take into consideration what I told them about those problems arising after they moved the security to the platforms between the Roosevelt stop and the 95th. We also asked them to please, even though your security doesn't do much, I saw one officer actually ask a rider that was waiting for a train, you can't smoke here, you must put it away. He was the only one that really did anything. And then how many years have we seen security officers on the CTA? At least about maybe 4 years at least, all the time, right? But now they I asked them about putting the officers having their presence on the train, so that the instances where what happens with Bill, they would be on the train, and their presence would likely deter what happened, what Bill witnessed.
So just to be clear, I can confirm that we've seen a good amount of security, private security, contracted security presence with the canines over at the Harlem Blue Line, over at the Roosevelt Red Line, over at the Howard Red Line station, and I think that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, because we do see some...
Oh, and at Jefferson Station, Blue Line, as well.
Okay. Yeah, well, we... It would help a lot if the presence of those officers, because oftentimes there are multiple officers at these stations, as you know, Bill.
Oh, the security guards.
Yes, the security officers. If those were to be spread among the trains, that would be so helpful. Then it wouldn't have to be the passengers that would be responsible for pressing the button, and of course would not want to press the button. Maybe the security officers being there would actually deter what happens on the trains. And we still don't understand why these security officers are not walking back and forth in those trains.
So let me tell you my Mayor Brandon Johnson story. Can I do that?
Sure.
Would you like to hear that, guys? Okay. So we recently did a ribbon cutting ceremony for a healthcare organization on Devon Avenue in Rogers Park, along with Mayor Brandon Johnson. We did you may cut the ribbon, and then Mayor Johnson had scissors, and the CEO of the healthcare had the scissors, and Trudy and I were conducting this ceremony. It was really wonderful. So we can get along with the mayor, we can get along with aldermen, we can get along with these elected officials. But that being said, when I saw Mayor Johnson at Addison Station, maybe last year,
was he riding the train?
he was right. Well, he wasn't. It wasn't just him riding the train. He had his security detail. The train ahead of it, the train behind it, waiting at the station. He must have had 10 or 12 people there, along with his camera guy. I spoke with...
And which train did you ride on?
The Red Line. This was it.
No. Was it on the mayor train, and the one before it, and the one behind it, or were you just at the station
He
observing?
came on the train. I actually got him on video with this whole entourage, this whole army of, this whole force. And, you can't get the experience of what is going on, the real true experience, if you're, I don't know, I don't want to go as far as to say what I was going to say, but you can't get the experience if you have such an entourage. I'll say it as plainly as that. You're not riding it like a pedestrian, a commuter would, and you're not getting the full story of what is going on. And I spoke with our friend Jeff Watts of Employment Opportunity Network about it when he was on a live stream, and he said, Brandon Johnson never takes the Red Line, and if he would, then he would understand and he would fix this problem because it's such an issue and it's so obvious. It's obvious, everyone. We know it, you know it. And then I had to tell Jeff Watts, I said, listen, hate to contradict you, but I'm going to. I did see Mayor Brandon Johnson on the Red Line, so he does ride the Red Line. And then I described how he rides the Red Line. And Jeff Watts said, well, let's see him take it at, 11 p.m. Till 3 a.m. And let's see how he feels about riding that and without his entourage. And you know what? I'll challenge the mayor. Do it.
Well, let's say he does ride with his entourage on the train at 11 in the evening. He won't have anywhere to sit unless somebody goes ahead of him and cleans the train for him. I don't think that he would want to sit in any of those seats.
And the interim CTA president, she's out there. She's getting out there to the workers. We've always had little conversations at the board meetings. She's replied to some of our requests over the years. Before she was interim president, and I think she's doing great for outreach. But she also, in response to us saying, us in general, the people saying that there's an issue with the smoking. There's a new smoking announcement. Do not smoke, which is new. But it's if she wrote it alone, if she wrote it at odd hours, if the CTA board, this is what they always say, and I think it's very interesting, and I kind of agree. If they wrote the CTA exclusively, buses and trains, I think we would get more done for our city, and I think that would also help the budget. I think they would understand maybe a little bit better, because I'm not in their shoes, but I think they would understand the issues and what actually needs to be taken care of versus, what they assume or think or what somebody's telling them that they need to take care of.
And of course, if they ride the trains and they resolve some of the issues, there will be much greater ridership, and then there will be much more revenue coming in to the CTA. They should think about that.
There's people like in New York. It's you watch YouTube. They're jumping over they're getting over all of these little hurdles so they don't have to pay to get in.
Yeah, the turnstile.
Turnstiles, right? And they've been doing it in Chicago forever. There's a lot of different little and large aspects that need to be looked at, in my opinion. to run it more efficiently and safely.
The smoking is horrible. We have been at so many of these CTA board meetings, and people are always complaining about that. I really wish that they would be able to enforce the no smoking ban. Let's say they have those security officers on the train. If it's a policy for them to, if they see smoking, then to remove the paraphernalia from the smoker, at the very least, I think that would help much more. Because where are they smoking again? It's not cigarettes anymore. It was cigarettes before, then it was pot. Now it's meth and crack, right?
It's crack. It's crack, and it's the vapes as well, the vaping as well, which is a different thing. But I really don't like when someone vapes. Someone vaped right behind your head on the 12 Roosevelt bus just before they couldn't wait.
Right.
They had to do it just before you got off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was looking at you and talking with you, and you told me he just smoked behind your head. I thought that he was like.
And it was like
glowing.
a cloud around your head.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not good at all. It's not healthy, and it's not acceptable at all. And I'd like the CTA to look into that as well. I don't know how they would have the force to enforce it. That's a different story.
Yes, but all those security officers are standing around at the Jefferson Station, Harlem Station, Howard Station, Roosevelt Station. And if they were to be dispersed out into the system, they do not have to be everywhere at all times. But if they're there often and the riders do not know when they might show up, that might discourage some people from smoking. And if they're smoking, they have no idea if someone will come and remove their pipe or their materials from them.
I'd like to change the track on this conversation for a second. We have been advocating, Trudy and I, for ADA accessibility on the Morse and Jarvis red line stations. There are women, families, let's just say families with babies with strollers. There are people with their groceries. There are people with disabilities that cannot use the Jarvis or Morse stations in Rogers Park, the red line stations, because by law they should be ADA accessible, and they're not. So every time that I speak about the CTA, I mention this because this is something that we need to streamline. And an interesting thing, they're trying to make the red line go to 130th. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but I feel that they should be taking care of the stations and the bus stops and the rail cars and the violent crime issues that we currently have before we start adding to it. Why don't we take care of all these stations and make them ADA accessible? Why don't we stop the violence so that we can all ride in peace and get to where we're going, and not have this smoke all around us or people waving knives or getting into fights? Can we take care of that first? I would say that's a priority before we add all these extra lines. And the city of Chicago is almost $1 billion in debt. The CTA is heading to, if not straight in the middle of the fiscal cliff at this point. And Mayor Brandon Johnson, the new news is he wants to charge more taxes of some sort. I don't know what kind of taxes to bail out the CTA. And do we want more taxes?
Well, I think it might be the ultra rich that he wants to tax, but we'll figure out the details later.
Mm-hmm.
For the CTA, like Bill said, it's very important to take care of the current ridership. I know that it would be great to increase the ridership, but if you were to, the CTA were to take care of the current ridership, make sure that they're getting there safely and not having to ride in unhelpful smoke-filled cars. We're not even asking to have clean cars. We're just asking for no smoke on the cars to start with, because there are so many people that really cannot take that smoke, and then that's not too much to ask. And then if we were able to take care of that, if that security detail were able to take care of the smoking, there would be more ridership and more revenue, because lately it just keeps on getting worse and worse, the smoking over the years. Even though the announcements are frequent, no, those who are smoking do not pay any heed to those announcements.
So let's just get to the point of this. Let's take care of the violence first. Public health and public safety should always be priority number one. If you want to get reelected, alder people and mayor and anybody, public officials, you should take care of public health and public safety first and put the money into that pot before we start doing expansion and extra, a CTA bus every 8 minutes or whatever it is. Let's take care of what we have before we start going to the shiny new thing.
Yes. No more ghosting, but really, like what you said, what's most important is the safety and the health. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Community Unity Now, the D Tycoon Show. This is Bill Morton, President of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, and I am Trudy Leong, Administrator of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. If you want to send us your complaints about the CTA, please email us at rogersparkchamberofcommerce@gmail.com. ROGERSPARKCOMMERCE@gmail.com, and we will make sure that your complaints we will bring to the CTA. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you again next week.